Good morning. Okay, so we on page Kuf Chav Beis. So he finished explaining what is the function of das. After we explained by Arichas Niflo the whole concept of midas, schalkus of midas, the scalus of midas. Now he's going back to the Sifra the Tznius of the whole Hemshach started with. All Hemshach started with the Sifra the Tznius that what in Zayah. That's in 7 lines from the top of page Kuf Chav Beis. Well, Pia Nal Yuban Amayim, but the Sifra that's near said Ad Loy Ave Maskele Loy Ave Mashgichin Apin Ba'apin. If you remember earlier, he spoke Ave Ave Maskele means until there was the scale, the mishkal, which we said earlier. That Mishkal is Mayach Hadas. Mishkal is the thing. Remember, he said Mishkal in a scale. There are 2 sides, and there's the middle, what we call the tongue of the scale that balances them. That's Mayach Hadas. So Adalei Ava Maskal before Mayach Hadas, which earlier in the Hemshach you said pshat that Adalei Ava Maskal means before the creation of Olam Atikun, because in Tikun everything is balanced, unlike Toyu, and that's what they start. That's how he started the Hemshach. And then later he explained that Maskal really means Mayach Hadas. So Lo Yava Mashgichin Apin Ba'apin means there was no relationship between the midas and the state of Aponim B'fonim. So after we explained the Barichas what the function of Mayach Hadas is, we go back to this Maimar Hazal in Sifra Ditznius Ad Le'ava Maskala Lo Yava Mashgichin Apin Ba'ap. The Eden is Ba'alil, so he summarized what he learned earlier. This Ba'alil, we just learned in the last 2 Maimorim, the Schalkas, and actually in this Maimor, the Schalkas Shebemidas was Israel. There is the advantage. The last 2 Maimorim. In the Maimor before, he spoke about 3 miles in Schalkus and Midas. In this Maimor, he spoke more about it. Yashbaz the Israel. There is the advantage that it's created to the Schalkus and Midas, to the fact that in Midas there is a division, Chesed, Gvur, etc. The Mala Ishai, they open as Gila Pnimi. That the Gila Oyer, the revelation, the expression of the early key is Pnimi. It's internalized. It's not something that's makiv. Zel. That happens, kasha midas in place medida nechayna. The midas are in a state of proper measurement and balance. Shabayim mislapshas v'kenim. In the midas, in the proper measurement, that is when they're mislapshas v'kenim. The kenim can handle them. But kasha yeshpotim d'chal chesed gvura. When you have all these details, chesed gvura v'aklam zigan nechayna, and all the proper balance, proper mixture. That's Islam number 1, the Islam of Pnimi. Then that's in the previous mile, but the three miles of Ischalkus. The next mile of Ischalkus is because there is a Ischalkus in the middle that creates these havos, the creation of the elements of the Seder Shtashlos, and even our own world. Is no way for Iba Ischalkus. There's an abundance of division. I know Gamkin Mziga v'Akovash b'Midas. There's a relates of the Mziga, of the balance and the combination of the Midas. Zel Pchinas Skalsha Midas Kashem Kfev Nasechel B'Midin Nechayin. Again, that all this must be, the Midas must be the proper balance. But the third thing is, it's not that originally it was part of the second mile. The purpose of creation, the Eibishter created the world with a lot of specific, separate detail is in order to Eden, to the Avodah. They should be mile in all these scholars, no way scholars. Everything should be united. Then the 3rd mile of Israel, the 3rd mile in Ischalkus that we learned the mile before, is the vision and the various paulas, various acts, various expressions. That was the third mile. Is a dafka. When do we get the shleimus shabatzmos? The fact that the Eibishter can be expressed in unlimited ways. Kashakolat vorim. Is a dafka kashakolat vorim. So, in other words, in the Maya before he spoke how the shleimus of Atmos is expressed to this halkus, but he says the ultimate expression is when this halkus becomes iskalus, which means. So he says, if it be only division and separation, that will not express the ultimate perfection and unity. The clippers are also in division and separation, and that's not that is not shleimus of Abbas Hashem. Verkehrt, die Friede macht das. The Rebbe separated them from his own unity. Darkness is chakish of Nesres the Gvormin in the Chayna, Shaya, Bemiskalos, Bamziga, Akova, Shalom, Isar, the Kula. So the expression of the shleimus of Atzmos. So earlier in the previous Maimer, he said that shleimus of Atzmos is expressed only when it's divided. In other words, when can we see the bottom Mitzrayim the gal shleimus kechayso? When we see the shleimus of Elikus, when there's abundance of various different and separate expressions. He says that that in itself still doesn't express the shleimus of Elikus, because we see division in Lomas also. When is that expressed? When this separate and divided beings, divided expressions, they unite. The scholars. That is the ultimate expression. Because so I mean, you already said it, or he's going to go more into this, showing how this thing of Ischalkos and Iskalos, the Iskalos is a result a result of Meir Hadas. What is a pshat? In the Yadosha is based on Ischalkos. Actually, he said it earlier also, but here he's going to say it a little differently. But he said the two levels in Ischalkos, two types. Shnei mina Ischalkos. Aleph Ischalkos who Tachlis appeared. The simple Ischalkos division means the ultimate separation. Let's say Chesed and Gvura. Why is Chesed and Gvura broken into Chesed and Gvura? And then there's Gvura Sheba Chesed. You can say that it's another. It's a different way of expressing the mode. Not some Chesed, Gvura Sheba Chesed. The more different it is, it's another mode of expression. Let's bring a marshal from others of people. Let's say you have 100 people together. So the fact that in the sense Shava is the fact that there is that each one thinks and feels differently is really an expression of separation. I'm separate. I'm different than you. I'm separate from you. One person is a different type of person than the other. So that's an expression of division and separation. Appeal. Habez, but then there's a more deeper and subtle way that is scholars. If there'll be only two people here, if there'll be only two, that will cause, and one, let's say one is one type and one is the opposite type. So there's no the fact that only two, that causes a clash. There's a clash between them. But then when there's 20 people, and each one is there's not the exact opposite of the other. He has more. There's more sort of similarities. So he's going to bring a different marshal. I'm not trying to bring this marshal. Maybe it's an attempt, let's say, of explaining the concept that because when there's a bigger crowd, there's a higher chance of unity, because there's people in between or have more similar. Let's say there's a third guy who's similar to the two, who has similarities to the two that connect them more. If there's only two, so each one is set in his own ways and they're broken. But there's a third person, let's say, who has similarities to both, and there's 10 people, and each one has similarities. That is Chalkus brings this Kalus. That makes them more of a unit. It's my, like I said, it's only my attempt at sorry, okay. But he brings a different mashal.
Why does that? Sorry, so why does that bring his scholars?
I'm telling you, because there's somebody who sees, who has. Look, he's bringing a mashal. I'm trying to bring a mashal for something more that we can relate to, because the fact that there's someone here who has both, who's similar to both of the two opposites, so he creates a certain way that they can talk, they can they can communicate better because there's someone who understands both of them. So mainly he makes the unit becomes more cohesive.
But here
you don't think it's true, or maybe not. I'm trying to find a marshal. You don't feel that way? Okay. Okay. Let's see the way he brings a marshal something more shut. So he says, if an alefu, so he goes back to the koiches hanefesh, the way it is in koiches hanefesh. Sorry, Danny, what did you say?
I'm saying here it's saying Chalkus is number of people. I'm not rather than differentiation.
What?
In the example that you gave, they say more people, more Schalkus, correct?
Yeah, that's what it says. More people, there's more Chalkus, there's more division, there's a separate person. Ain't they saying Shabbos, Lamaisa, each one is different. That's my marshal. Okay, if it's not good, it's not. It's an attempt on a marshal. But let's say what his marshal. He gave the marshal something, but the more shot. Let's see. Even the first way these Chalkus Tachas appeared, Kasha Koiches Bain Beis Galus. K'mo Prince Atzmi Shalem. The Koiches HaNefesh, not just Koiches HaNefesh, any other Koiches, when they express themselves, Prince Atzmi Shalem, which means the pure essence, the pure being. K'mo Etzem Yisayid HaMayim, Etzem Yisayid HaEish. Okay, so even the marshal from the Yisaydas, from the elements. So there's Yisayid HaMayim, the element of water, and Yisayid HaEish, the element of fire, the opposite. The Tchila, okay, it goes back to the way the Ramban in the beginning of Bereshit, the Rambam, a few places, this cloud and Shainim described how the world was created. So the Ramban says in the beginning, when it says the earth, says toyu. Toyu means according to Ramban's shat chumash. Toyu means chema pashut. There is a pure and abstract type of matter. It's it's koil inside our mind. But so the first stage is that they're in the Chaim Pashut in the way of Adam Tzis. In that stage, there's no division because they are only in an abstract state. There's the abstract potential for fire, for water. So in that world, there's no division because Adam Tzis. But but when they express themselves the way they are in the pure essence, in the essential state, when they are expressed in the pure way, let's say the Eish, in the fullest expression of Eish, which is fire, it's burning, it's hot, it's a flame. Seder Mayim is the opposite. It's cold, it's water, it's wet. So they're two opposites, and they're pure. When they express themselves in the ultimate expression, they are in the strongest, in the most powerful way. In that stage, it's impossible they should ever connect. But then you break it down. Because essentially, the truth is that each side, each element has in a state of pure potential, in a state of in a state of potential is the right word. In that state, in that level, it has also it's called it has within it its opposite power. The mele, the one that the shachima pashat nice is cool. You know, like I said, the mashli brings is a little how it's harder to pinpoint with I mean, it's one of these things. In theory, they make sense. We can't really see it, but it says that two
I'm sorry
things.
if I just go back for a drop.
Yeah, sure.
But what does it mean that the you say this the way that it's impossible to be miskal one with the other?
I mean, the meaning is that the way it is in its pure being, the pure concept of fire means it's only there's nothing there. It's fire. It's pure fire. There's no the sin is marking for anything anything different. The essence of fire, the essence of the thing is fire. What kind of marshal can we give for that? Think of marshal, but
so that's when the kechas come to his galas, he's saying.
What? When they're bizgals, the way they're in the etzem, okay, in the marshal we usually give, you see, for this point, the marshal usually is, like we always say, the marshal of Beis Chasanas B'nai Yechida, that when a person is in a state, the Gila Kechas and Elamim. But it's funny, you have to bring a marshal one thing and the other, they're but like abstract types of beings. We can't like have a real grasp of the concept. In other words, we understand. It's like I said a few times. It's like a formula that makes sense on paper. It's not something we can really fully grasp. But we see let's say the marshal. Okay, the closest marshal we have from reality is the Kechas Ne'elam. From the Chasnas B'nai Yechida, what happens? That the moichin or the midas express themselves in a very powerful way. We do see when the person is in a state of extreme state of being. Let's say his emotions are expressed in an extreme way. So extreme is he can't allow anything else. That's like, let's say is in a state of. I mean, the easiest thing is anger, but even not the opposite of anger, giving. A person is in a state of chesed. He expresses the midas of chesed when it's gila kachas ne'elamim. The midas of chesed is the ultimate. He just can't see himself. Look, anybody who comes, even the person who usually can stand, is the total state of chesed, pure chesed, doesn't allow himself to see any other way, right? That's the closest we can get as a marshal to this concept that he's discussing here. And the way it is in the Eisha Yisayid, in my Yisayid, which I'll to us some abstract concepts. So we just have to apply the formula. The formula is that something that this is something that's the essence of the thing. So you can't allow. Okay, the other marshal that the Sidus always brings is related like with let's say the Pintal Eid. It's also a marshal. The Pintal Eid, like it says in Tanya, that when a person is stressed, he has a guy standing over him and says should convert. So the Pintal Eid is expressed, and he doesn't allow anything, right? So that's another marshal of expressing the inner being. Going to our own discussion here, it's a certain way of understanding the way the elements operate. The elements, the way we in our experience, we don't even know. We never saw and we never experienced. We say the ish b'taharase b'pshitusa. We can't experience it. Anything in our world, like it says, anything that we experience is made up of the four elements. There's nothing that we see or feel or hear that's only one element pure in this pure being. There's no such thing in our experience. Only, like I said, in Indian Geret, we can read, it says in Ramban, it says in this form that there is the way the Eibush created the world. First, there was the pure, each element was in its pure being. So in that element, when the element of fire is pure being, it cannot allow water, and vice versa. That's state one. State two is that the truth is that each one has the other, is combined of the other, and that when we feel it, when it's actually expressed. That he says, when we see the actual fire and water and the combination of them, then then the period is wrong. That's the point. That eventually, that when they break down, so basically that is a mashal, it's a dogma that this is chalkas wing is colorless. So I told you, I bought a mashal before from people, and people get when there's a bigger crowd. In a way, it allows more unity. It's a little counterintuitive. We always say the bigger crowd, there's more opinions. It tells the truth. But there's also more communication. There's like I said, there's more people. I think this mashal gives you a certain gives us a certain way of relating to this concept that is halkus brings its colors. That when can you tolerate and combine with the other with another, not when each of you is in its pure mode of essential expression, but when you break it down, that you have there's more nuance. There's more than one way of looking at it. Okay, so that's what they want. So, okay, to summarize, he said there are two types of ishalkus. There's period and iskalus. There are two ways the division operates. There's division which express separation, and a division that causes combination, which is two opposites. Close average when the third is the tikkun. So now it takes us back to the original sugya, to the original topic of our hemshech. The deal in Toya and Tikkun. What is the betoyin is gala midas connection batzmiyus and b'shitusan. The way the midas, the Eivash's midas, the Eivash's expressions, the expression of his infinite power, the way they express themselves in Toyu, the pure essential being. So in that way, they were in tachlis apil. They were separate and divided. Aber betikun nase is halkus v'chol mida. V'shenken in tikun, in olam tikun, because there was this halkus. This halkus is a different type of halkus. Ba'apotim shabo. This halkus and tikun is that each mida itself is broken down. Midas achesed. The midas achesed itself was broken down and divided into 10 elements. Shebachesed chachma, shebachesed gvura, shebachesed tiferet, shebachesed shalei achesed b'toikev hagila v'hashpa b'yosef. The chesed should not be in the ultimate toikev hashpa, but גם כן הגבולה בהספשטוס והגילוי שבו שזה המידס הגבול. There's another, we can bring another marshal. It says in famous Gemara that what was it? Forgot what's the Tana. Chanida ben Dois. I don't remember what Tana. In Gemara in Tainus that he asked the Eibush to Kshamim. He asked the Eibush for rain. There was a batzeres. There was a drought. And he davened the Eibush should give rain, and the rain started so strong. He said, "Nasat alem roif toiv einim mechanim lakabel." There was too much. So that's what Chanyamago. Sorry, Chanyamago. So Nasat alem roif toiv einim mechanim lakabel, right? Which means chesed can be in a way that overwhelms the makabel. That's pure chesed. Chesed means I'm giving now. I don't look who the makabel is, I'm just giving. There's no. So that so that can cause can cause the opposite effect that the chesed had. That so the chesed doesn't allow the opposite, doesn't allow the measurement. There's gvur shebechesed that limits it. Says, okay, we have to give a lot, but you have to take the makabel into account. He can't handle it. That's an individual marshal, how midas chesed can be in a way that it's what do you say? It's the mode of expression that it's full force without any limitation. But so that was in Toy, but in Tikkun. Nischalak, there's the Agvol. Nischalak oidliyut. Then even the chesed shebechesed, gvura shebechesed is one thing, but it says there's another breakdown. The gvura shebegvura shebechesed. Kama yifanim shenim mitzaches atzach chesedim gvura sheba. In other words, all this, the division, the breakdown into more specifics, that allows the combination more. So in this is the way it is in Chesed. Chein midas hagvura. Similarly, midas hagvura, it can be gvura, the ultimate gvura, without any allowance for Chesed. Then there is Chesed shebegvura, Chesed shebechesed shebegvura. So various modes of mixture and combination. The Ischalkus creates Ischalkus. V'zeh nase. So he repeats the same thing we said earlier in the Maimer, that this quality, that this Chalkus brings this Kalalos is a result of Meichin, Shepain Echlishus. The Meichin weaken weakness and bittul in the Midas. The Midas should not be in their full expression. So this is Chalkus, this division and separation eventually causes the opposite. Causes the opposite that that should be scholars in his heart. Calls there. So what part of Meichin is it? Like we said, we learned all along yesterday and the day before. Calls there the Adas. What part of Meichin reaches the Midas in a way that the Schalkus and the scholars should operate properly? That's the Meich Adas. That's one thing. This Das is called this Schalkus. Gam Adas Mashal Mitzapis from the Chachma. So dafka when das, when the Mayach HaDas affects the midas in the proper way, that fulfills the ultimate kavanah earlier, and that happens in the matik. The cell in a maskala. So he goes back to the in a maskala that is the sefer that's near at the layer of maskala. Maskala in a mishkal, like we said earlier. Mishkal means the scale, base carving. The scale has two sides, two modes. The maskala causes the midas that should be each midah should have chasadim gvuros, and should call midah loytia b'china klolis. Each midah should not be only in its general state, which in our case, general means fully expressive, one-dimensional. Ki im tisal b'china potech chasadim gvuros shebo. V'zeu hamishkol. That's the meaning of mishkol. Shekol koyach yibchas chesed gvul midah meziga nachayna boifen shiva meiskal. That is the Indian of the mishkol. The midah meziga nachayna. Measurement and the proper balance. V'gam Indian a mishkol the base kavim has heich gvul chsadim veich gvul shebedas guf. Now it introduces another terminology from Kabbalah, which really, it's one of these things, and Kabbalah is full of this concept. I think first of all, we added earlier when he said, how do we get to the number Ramachnitz Vesesa? We have test bomim gimel. That's Rishmem gimel. How do we get to Ramach? Hey Gvuros, hey Chasadim. Sorry, Chasadim. So usually Chassidus talks about Hey Chasadim Nei Gvuros. The marshal always is of the 5 fingers. The 5 fingers of the right hand are called Hey Chasadim. 5 fingers of the left hand are called Hey Gvuros. Sometimes Chassidus says why, or how do we come to the number 5? From the 5, really, I was connected the 5 spheres between from Chesed to Hoyt, because Yesod is already the communication. Yesod is the communicating to the next level. Yesod is the mamutza that's mamshech from the higher level to the lower level. So the essence of the midas are really 5. That's really a topic which adds. But here he says, so this is the the 5. So there's hey chasadim and hey gvuros. And on each side of the scale, there's 5, what do I call it? Chasadim. 5 types of chesed and 5 types of gvur. In Likutei Yitzchak, almost every page here says Chasadim and gvuros. It's a very common term, which interestingly enough, Chassidus doesn't. I think very rarely does Chassidus actually explain why. I told you what I remember seeing here and there, but the concept wasn't about hey, why hey? It's not that common. Chassidus talks about it as a fact, just like there's essence spheres. Hey, Chasadim Nei Gvuros. That's the situation. That's the way it is. Koponim, he says, Beza Kavans, Hey Chasadim Nei Gvuros shebedas gufa. Das itself as chesed and gvura, and here it says hey chesed, whatever. Shemehei gvura. So he takes us back to something that he said in top of page Kuf Chav Beis. Top of page Chav Beis, he said in line 4 on page Kuf Chav Beis, he brought from Tanya Seif Perek Gimel. It says over there that Das is Avav Anafer and Irav Anafer. Das is broken, is generally as two sides to it, Ava and Ir. So he explained that here in page Kuf Chav Beis, line 4-5, Masha Das, the schalkus of Das, that's from Gvur, and the schalkus from Chesed. That's how I explained it in page Kuf Chav Beis. And now he's going back to that explanation. Shemahei Gvuros, the fact that the Das has 5 Gvuros, 5 expressions of Gvura, of judgment, of Heder Agilui. So the Ischalkus is a result of the Gvura. Because Gvura is Ischalkus. Ma'ich nasa bitl v'iskalus or the Giler Chachma Kanal. So from the Chsodim is the Iskalus, and from the Gvura is the Ischalkus. Shebazei gam ken mishkal mida. So just like there's a mishkal mida, so there's a mishkal mida how to measure the Chasadim versus the Gvuros. that itself, how much tzius there should be, and how much beetle there should be, how much is chalkas, how much is kalas, that itself, in other words, in addition to the fact that the chalkas is a meziga nachayin, and the kalas is the meziga nachayin, and these two modes themselves, how they balance, that itself needs to be meziga nachayin. Kama, like it says, how much of it is mitzvah, how much is it beetle. And through all this, through this entire process, when you have both of them in the proper measurement, that really brings to fruition the fulfillment of the kavanah elyon, of the Eibishter's original intent, the way the shtar should operate. Okay, now going back again to that Maimar Chazal that we started, the Sifra that's near. Zeo the other level master before there was the master, the mishkal, the measure, the scale, which is das. They didn't look at each other. They didn't face each other, which means that's the Olam HaToyu. The division was in a way the first place appeared. It was the ultimate the division, separation. They didn't relate to each other. Even they first of all, the Tachlis appeared. Then the other thing is the Eibishter's original Kavanah was not fulfilled. By Eipach Kavanah Amitis because the Kavanah Amitis should be Giloy Pnimi. Shami is that Kol Echad B'Toikef or Eipach Bli Gvul. I don't know why he brings it was the Chotzi Ego point here, but the idea is that there was no fulfillment of the Oyab Pnimi. There was that's it says Toikef Oyab Bli Gvul. Like I mentioned earlier, also in the world of Toyu, there was no Oyab Pnimi. It was Bli Gvul. It was Makif. Another thing, Pnes is Kalos. First of all, Giloy Pnimi, Pnes is Kalos. Zeu Shekosov B'Bir Arizal. Okay, now it takes us back to. Remember, in the beginning of this discussion, that was, I think, in the Maya, before was it? It was a while ago. What was it? 1 second. In fact, a long time ago. Ahmed Kuf Hey, if you go in the beginning of the Maya over there, it says, it brings some Kabbalah. It brings Kabbalah language. The Talmud Arizal said pshat in the shtickle zoyer, in the shtickle sifra d'tznius. It said, I'm going back to page kofei. Pure sifra d'tznius with Talmud Arizal kosav. The lashon is there. Shloi oya ashgochas atika kadisha bezo. The tiferes. I'm sorry, bezo. That is said. Over there, that's the way he puts it in Kabbalah language. That Loi Mashiach Napim Ba'apin means the Kesed, Atika Kadisha did not have a direct line, Kaviyachal, to Zod. There was a half second between. So he takes us back to that Lashon Arizal and he says, Psachsidish Pshat in it. But Zeo Shekosav B'Bir Arizal, Shaloi Mashashim Atika Kadisha, that in the way the spheres operated in Toyu, they were not Moshoshim, they were not rooted and get their energy from Olam from Shkeser. Hainu, it says Pshat. That's Mamash. Achsidish Pshat in the shtickle Kabbalah. Kabbalah says Moshoshim Batika Kadish. Says Chassidus, what it means. They did not fulfill the kavanah elyon. I think a kadisha is the ultimate kavanah elyon, the highest madrega. And the loyim mashashim, if it's not within, it means you don't fulfill the ultimate goal. That's a pshat. Adarabah, or eipach kavanah. The einish chnes is chalkas. The gam chnes take away. The midas of toyu with the opposite of the Eibish's Kavana. They're in the state of Schalkus, takes a Yeshus, Vezeo Sherak Chines Gvuris Vedinim. That's another thing that he brought in Arizal. That in that level is only Gvuris Vedinim. There's only judgment and the blockage. Val Kain Loi Hoyo Mashgichim Apim Ba'apin. So that's what they said Pshat Narizal. Loi Mashgichim Apim Ba'apin. They didn't look each other face to face. There was no connection. Hainu, like it says in the Arizal, that's what the Arizal says. Shaloy Hashpor Pches Atika Kadisha Lezo was not direct Hashpor from Atika Kadisha to Zom. Achas Shaloy Mashhosh Atika Kadisha and Shloim Amitis HaKavon. Because they didn't fulfill the Amitis HaKavon. That is why that's the meaning that Loy Mash Mekabel from Atika Kadisha. Another thing it said over there in his Arizal, that what it said over there, that number one, the spheres of Zohar were not makabel directly from Atik, and then it said another thing, the Chesed Gvor themselves didn't like look at each other, didn't unite. These two things are really interdependent. When can there be this achdus between the spheres? Only when there's not when the kafir kavana al when there's no ischak, there's no yeshus. The spheres the spheres was violated. That takes us back to the Ma'amar Yetzer Moshe, which is 3 Ma'amar we go in the Hemshech. That's the kinds of Acha Ba'acha means there was no in Torah, there was no Isardus. Like two people, Acha Ba'acha is like two people standing in one room, but they're instead of facing each other, they're back to back. There's no they like everybody's looking in the opposite direction. There's no communication. So the opposite of communication. Each one looks the opposite direction. So that's the concept of Atah Abdallah Pir Gam. Ubetikun Usher is Chadesh Pines HaMaskal, Pines HaMishkal the Das. Only in Elamatikun, that is when the concept of Maskal, the Mishkal, the Das is Chadesh was created. Lies Pines Kavin Pines Beetle. There should be Kavin. So he speaks very bekitzer, like he said over there in the beginning of that Maimah. Nomet Kufhei, so the Kavin. Remember, we said that two-way spheres operate. There's Kavin, Kava Yamin, Kava small, Kava Emtza. In Kava Yamin, so Chesed gets direct from Chochma, and Tiferes gets direct from Kesser, which also shows that there is combination. This is the opposite of Zeh Tachas Zeh. Sha'idei Zeh. Beetles, there's Kavin and there's Beetles. So that creates the skull of the combination, the unity in the meters. That's panim b'panim. They face each other and they communicate directly. So when that happens, they also have the amitas hakavana. So when they reach that level of tikkun, everything is done according to the Eibishter's intent, kavana elyon, in a way of his achdus and his kalus, then there's meir ben pnes atzman and so. Then they express the ultimate gil of atzman and so. Yeshleim ad zeinu kutshabich v'ashari basar shlim. So that's Merumas. But earlier this Chazal says Va'i b'sholem sukkah. Pasuk says, remember there was it's a pasuk in Tehillim. There was one of the nigunim for the Alchnis. Va'i b'sholem sukkah menasa b'tzir. So Va'i b'sholem sukkah. Sholem means is Yerushalayim. But the Zohar says b'sholem lashon shleimus. Hakadosh Baruch Hu shari. Sukkah means his place of dwelling, his tent. But Sholem Sukkah means that the Eibishter dwells where Basar Shlim, only in a place that's perfect, which means, what does perfect mean? The place that fulfills its mission properly. That's the Olam HaTikun. That's Asar Shlim. That's enough. What he just said. Meir b'matzim itself. Zein k'tshubich b'shari b'Asar Shlim. B'chinas ha'искala shebesar sphere. Zeh p'nei shleima shebehem. When the sphere is in a state of full iskala, which is full shleimus, perfection. Kol echad kol mikol spheres inside them kol miyacha. Kulam. They all, each one is combined of the other, and they're all united. So in that madrig of tikkun, when it's done in the proper way, so that has the gil of kuchabrichot, gil himself, which is even higher than toyo and tikkun together. That is the ultimate goal of Olam HaTikun. So that's how I finished explaining this whole concept of the lotion of the sefer that's near. So before there was the Mayach Hadas, the mishkal, the measurement and the weight that makes things properly balanced and fulfilling the mission. There was no connection. Mashenken through the maskala we get the api ba'api, and then it's mamshas. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.